I will be leading the class.
Recording in progress.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, guys.
Everybody on mute?
Everybody's on mute except for.
I think it's the volume.
The TV. Yeah, it's the computer volume.
Okay.
Oh, it's that computer?
It's everybody's.
Are we good? All right. Trustee Burdell, will you read the land acknowledgement?
The Pacifica School District acknowledges that we gather on the unceded ancestral homeland of the Ramaytush Ohlone people. As guests, we humbly extend our gratitude to the Ramaytush Ohlone elders and community. We recognize that we benefit from living and working on their traditional homeland, and we affirm their sovereign rights as First Peoples. As the original stewards of this land, the Ramaytush Ohlone understand the interconnectedness of all things and the importance of maintaining harmony with nature. Likewise, Pacifica School District commits to teaching our school community how to be responsible stewards of this land.
Thank you. The district digitally records the audio portions of the meetings. All recordings are kept in the superintendent's office for 30 days and are available during that time period for inspection by members of the public on district equipment without charge. In-person speakers wishing to address the board on agenda or non-agenda items, please complete a request card with your name, address, and the item number and submit it to the board president or superintendent. You will be called to address the board and you may speak for up to 3 minutes. Virtual speakers wishing to address the board on agenda item or non-agenda items, please submit your first and last name and agenda item you wish to speak on in the Q&A area of the webinar. Please do not submit comments or questions in the Q&A area. You will be called to address the board. Your microphone will be unmuted and you may speak for up to 30 minutes. After you have spoken, your microphone will be muted. All right. The board met in closed session regarding public employee performance evaluation titled Superintendent New Goals.
I'll need to take roll.
Oh, okay.
Trustee Burdell?
Here,
Trustee Burkini?
Here.
Trustee Doggett?
Here.
Trustee Patel?
here,
Trustee Villalobos?
here.
Thank you. Sorry.
No problem. So the board met in closed session regarding public employee performance evaluation titled Superintendent New Goals, and the board took no action. All right. So approval of the minutes. Are there any questions regarding the minutes of March 9th, 2022 regular Board of Trustees meeting? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of March 9th, 2022 regular Board of Trustee meeting?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of March 9th.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Rob?
We don't have to take a roll call, we can just take a regular vote.
What?
Oh.
It says on here, take a roll call vote, but I think we're,
Yeah, so,
Barbara, will you take the vote, please?
All in favor, please raise your hand.
yeah.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
Approval of the agenda and consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda will be approved with one motion, which is not debatable and which requires a unanimous vote for passage. If any member of the board, the superintendent, or the public so requests, any item shall be removed from this section and placed in the regular order of business following the approval of the consent agenda. Are there any questions regarding the agenda and consent agenda? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda and consent agenda?
A motion to approve the agenda and consent agenda.
And do I have a second?
One second.
And Barbara, will you take the vote?
All in favor, please raise your hands. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
All right. So on to communication.
got
So do we have LSEA and
We do have LSEA and we're going to voice activate her. Will, do you have access to that, Will?
Voice activated, yeah, sure.
Just voice, let me see if I can do it for Megan Ellsberg. Could you make me a co-host, please?
And can you make Josie one too?
She said she doesn't have that access right now to do the elevation thing.
Okay, oh, she didn't sign in.
I can.
Hello. Hi. All that for me to say nothing at this time. Thank you.
thank you. CSEA.
Now be who now?
There we go, hi Josie.
Okay, she's.
Hi Nicole.
She's on mute.
Oops, you're on mute, we can't hear you.
All right. Hello, my name is Nicole Sayers, and I am the president of CSEA. Since I spoke on the 9th, I don't have a whole lot to say, but I will fill you in on some recent negotiations. One of our proposals to the district was that they print 150 copies of our future collective bargaining agreement. So far, the district has refused our proposal to provide our membership with the printed copies. Instead, they are offering to put a copy on the district website. CSEA has not had a printed copy since the 2015-2018 agreement, which has been out of date for 6 years. We are currently updating the contract and feel that although there is a small cost to the district, we deserve it. Our members went above and beyond during COVID and were instrumental in keeping the district running. Our members are only 3% of the school budget. I don't think that it is unreasonable to ask for fresh copies for our latest collective bargaining agreement. It is meaningful to CSEA to present every member with a hard copy of their contract. It is a record of over 60 years of negotiating teams working with the district to ensure that our members have rights that improve their lives. It is a rule book. It lets us know what we can expect in our workplace and what the workplace expects from us. I'm all for saving trees, and I appreciate the district will post the contract.
Frozen.
And highlighter on the articles that are important to them. Mine not only has highlighter, but it also has sticky notes on almost every page to help me quickly locate specific articles and items. We cannot highlight or put sticky notes on an online version of the contract. A hard copy for all our members is important to us, and I'm hoping the district will reconsider printing the 150 copies when we finish updating our current collective bargaining agreement. We are hoping for fair, meaningful, and reasonable negotiations. On another note, I have been working at different school sites in the district. I really want us all to remember that we still need to think about being kind. If not kind, professional. When someone is upset or tired or struggling, kind may not come naturally, and that's okay. However, every staff in the district deserves to be treated respectfully and professionally. As I have said before, we do not know what others are going through. If we can simply remember to be respectful and professional, it should be received well, and the environments will be better working places for us all. As always, thank you for your time.
I think Michelle Gray is in the question and answer. Will, could you elevate Michelle Gray for audio?
Sure. Okay, she should be elevated. I just said allow to talk.
Let's make sure that we see her.
Hi there, can you hear me? Hi everyone. I'm sorry you're not there in person. I'll get there at some point soon. Nice to see everyone's faces though. My name is Michelle Gray and I've been working on a couple of different efforts. So just like to give a little bit of an update. It's always great to do pats on the back because I think they are well-deserved and never enough of them going around. So I want to thank Josie and her team for their support in all the communications, being able to look at different school fields and tracks and things like that. What can the community do in sports organizations to partner with the school district to improve things? So she's really been wonderful making herself available to move things forward. I also want to thank Cece. So I met with her this week for about an hour and a half, which was wonderful. It's important that all these efforts, the bond measures, and then the efforts the community is taking to update fields and tracks are in sync and that they're organized. So it was really great to be able to sit down with her. So I want to thank her for that. We are moving forward with an upgrade to the Valumar track. This is something that is fully being sponsored by the Valumar PTO, so a real big shout out for them. They're also doing some fundraisers to help make sure that the field is in better shape. And we're working with Pacifica Girls Softball League and Joe Kell and his group for that. I'm looking to quantify the work that's needed to get the fields at IBL and Odsted up into better shape. It takes some time, as you all know. And with Odsted in particular, there's other considerations with the workforce housing. But I just want to let you know those efforts are ongoing. We really need to make sure that we're supported with enough staff at the school district to do their job. So they've been suffering quite a bit to be able to do their job. The staff hasn't been there. Folks have been out sick, unfortunately. There just aren't enough people. And then when you place on top of that all of the bond efforts, folks are stretched even thinner. So the concerns are, we're asking the community to step up and to make donations, to come in and put their people hours in, to get these fields and tracks in better shape. But if we can't control things like gophers or make sure the sprinkler systems are in good shape, they degrade very quickly. And so it's something that the school district does control. And so we really need to make sure that there's enough folks there on the grounds crew available to support all of these efforts. So good work has been done already. We just really need to make sure that there's enough folks that can work with us from the school district. And so I'd love to understand funding and how you're able to balance the needs on the facilities and grounds crew with their general responsibilities and also with the bond responsibilities. Finally, Elna Flynn, all the schools have their nominees and we're excited for the banquet on May 20th. So thanks all and reach out with questions.
Perfect timing, Michelle.
Thank you. All right. Correspondence.
I do not have any.
Do not have any. All right. Board Superintendent Communications. Want to start at the end there? Trustee Verdal?
Not a whole lot since the last meeting. The Terranova Band had its circus-themed in-person fundraiser that their jazz band played at the Moose Lodge, and it was almost surreal to have an in-person event like that and have the band playing and everything, and they did a wonderful job. And then workforce housing meetings, many of them, because we're going to be having the open house for the staff and teachers tomorrow, and then 2 for the community Saturday and Wednesday. So all the planning involved with that, with the different stakeholders and going over everything we're going to present. So that was several meetings. I have nothing to report.
I just did 2 things. I tuned into the superintendent's chat a couple weeks ago, and then I met with Heather the other day.
I had one call with it's with the San Mateo County Office of Education with Nancy McGee, that it was before masks came off, so we talked about that a little bit. There was, like Elizabeth said, I think 3 different workforce housing meetings, as well as meeting with the Workforce Housing Advisory Committee. I also did a visit over at Valmar School. I spoke with several teachers about, it was before the mask date, so we talked about the lessons that they were teaching the students about being kind and compassionate to each other's choices. And I also took a walk around and looked at the field back there. It's looking really good, the improvements that the softball's done. So, and I also noticed kind of a collective, sort of a little bit of a weight feeling like it's coming off of people's shoulders, compared to back when I went in, I think in November or October. It just felt like people were kind of relaxing a little bit and feeling better about the future. So that was really just great to see and feel. And so that's my 3 weeks.
Well, I don't have much to report other than I've met with Heather several times. So that's pretty much it for me.
I'll just make a plug for workforce housing to the staff members that are watching. Please join us tomorrow in the back of the valley. Hopefully we're going to have a beautiful day at 3:30 to 5:30. Stop by and learn about our plans and give some input. And then to the community on Saturday from 11 to 1 and on Wednesday the 7th, right? Wednesday the 7th at 5:30 to 7:30. So we want to encourage everyone to come to learn. We've made some nice progress and have some thinking, but there's certainly room for input. So we'd be curious to hear from the neighbors and our community.
District goals. The district values the goals provided in our local control accountability plan, LCAP, and strategic plan. All of our district board agenda items are tied to these goals. 1 or more goals are listed in the description of each board agenda item. The details for each of those district goals can be accessed on our website at www.pacificasd.org. All right. 10A, summer plans. This is information, and this is Dr. Olson.
Okay, I will get started on this. Just know that, yes? What's that?
We can't see the screen.
Poor Elizabeth. Let's see, what are we going to do to
You
get?
can-
I have it up here.
You have it on your, I was gonna say, you can pull it up on your
Okay,
computer.
perfect. The summer programs affect nearly every department in our district. And what I want to say, that what I share with you tonight is not a 100% done deal. It's a matter of aligning some of the stars, but I can tell you the work that we've made so far. So I'll wait for that to get up on the... Oh, there we are in the back.
Loading, there it is.
Well, can you do that in present mode for us, maybe?
Yeah, it's in present mode.
Oh, there we go. Okay, perfect. Okay, so let's get started. Next slide, please. So tonight we're going to talk about extended school year, a potential summer school, a partnership with JUHSD around career and technical education for 7th and 8th graders, and a really great opportunity offered by Boys and Girls Club. Next slide, please. So we have had extended school year every year since I've been here. It's a pretty consistent thing that we offer. And that is a program offered to some students with individualized IEPs that would demonstrate significant regression following summer break. So it's a very specific group of kids. Those students would need a significant amount of time to recoup those skills, and it's designed to maintain those learned skills over the summer. And so we are going to have that program at Lindemar Educational Center. Last year it was at Ortega, and that will be from June 16th to July 12th, and it's from 9 to noon. And probably we will run, I don't know the specifics, between 4 and 5 classrooms. Last year I think we had 5 classrooms. Next slide, please. Just in terms of the cost, is that we have district staff costs and contracted services. So in addition to the teachers and the paraprofessionals, there are often behaviorists, additional service providers, speech therapists. The cost is probably around $70,000. Next slide. So the next program, the summer school program, is something that's going to be paid for through the Expanded Learning Opportunity Program. And this is something that we're just beginning to get our feet wet in terms of this program. This is an apportionment that is going to be given to us every year. Here's the challenge, is that there are a number of laws or regulations around how we use this. And if they audit us and find us that we didn't meet those needs, they take that money back. And so the kind of high stakes on that end. This year we received $376,000. It is supposed to be money that comes every year. We're not completely certain that it will be that much money every year. It is targeted to TK through 6th grade, so you'll notice that we have a different plan for a summer program for 7th and 8th grader. The focus is on students who are English learners, socioeconomically disadvantaged, or foster youth. So the good news is that the audit doesn't start until 2023. And the encouragement from the state now is to get started to build up to the regulation. So this would be kind of the first part of us getting started. Ultimately, it is looking at every day that school's in session, offering a 9-hour day, so 6 hours of school, and then either an hour before school and up till 6 o'clock. Up to 50% of our students who fall in that unduplicated category of English learner, socioeconomically disadvantaged, or foster youth. And then, in addition to the 9-hour day during the school year, it's also 30 additional days, which would be 9-hour days, and that can be summer, spring break, holiday breaks. So the challenge is that adding all of that onto for 50, so if you say we have 600 kids that fall in the unduplicated category, because it's not 7th and 8th, that's a slightly smaller, but to offer to half of those students, $376,000 is not enough money, and you have to think about how creatively you can offer opportunity that are partnerships. So you'll see that in our summer program, we're looking for something that's a little bit different. Next slide, please. So when you do summer school, you got to think about what are the most important aspects of a summer learning program, and one is that it's at least 5 weeks. We are going to look at a 6-week program, and part of that is the language arts curriculum that we want to use. Probably takes at least 5, if not 6 weeks. At least 3 hours of academic instruction per day, small class size of 15 per teacher, strong attendance, and then using high quality curriculum that aligns with the school year standard and student needs. Summer programs really do not provide the time for teachers to design their own program. They just do not have the time to do that. And then enrichment activities alongside academics provide opportunities for students. So if we look at the summer school portion and the enrichment portion, that's where we're going to get to 9 hours. Next slide. So remember that these are kind of what we're aiming for. There's lots that we might not hit. So what we would like to do is offer 6 weeks for students rising 3rd grade through 6th grade. And that's specifically that group was selected because those kids that will be in 3rd grade next year were in kindergarten during the beginning of the pandemic, most of their 1st grade class, and then they were in 2nd grade this year. So that's really a targeted group of kids. We're looking at, because both contractually and based on the recommendation, 15 students each. We would like to run 2 classes of 15 each per grade level. So one group at rising 3rd grade, two classes at rising 3rd grade, 2 at 4th grade. Ideally, one teacher would teach math and one teacher would teach language arts, and then they'd swap. So the teachers would do one preparation for each day. And so we're looking to hire 8 teachers. that is one of the variables that could get in our way. I did put out a poll in terms of, are you interested in teaching? I probably heard from 8 teachers that said that they were interested. And then I heard probably from another 8 to 10 that said, depends on the circumstances. So that's why we're trying to outline what the circumstances are right here, because I think once people know, they actually will probably be more interested in this. In terms of curriculum, there is a summer math camp curriculum put on by UCute, which is Joe Bowler out of Stanford. And it is engaging, it is problem solving, it is fun. When I was in my previous district, we were involved in some of that, and the kids were so excited about mathematics. There is a training on May 17th and 18th that we would like to, if we can identify the teachers beforehand and send teachers to that math camp training, that would be fantastic. And then Lucy Calkins and Teachers College have produced a summer school unit that is foundational to the rising third grader, the rising fourth grader. It's very reasonably priced and puts it all in one place, and I think will support kids nicely as they go in to the next grade level. So in terms of the hours, the 3 hours would be 9 to noon. Ideally, again, another thing that if we lined up and we're able to hire some Playworks paraeducators, we'd love to look at a soft start time where parents could drop their child off between, say, 8:15 and 9 o'clock. Students could eat breakfast. We're looking to serve breakfast and lunch. Here's a variable we learned today. So let's see, I can't remember the exact specifics, but I think after June 30th, that's not funded by the federal government, and the state government doesn't start free lunch until the 1st of August. So there is a month in there that we would be on the hook for the food costs. I do think that we would encourage people to fill out the free and reduced lunch application if they qualified, because that would just help us with the funding on that. But it makes sense to serve both breakfast and lunch, even if it were at our costs, and that could be funded by ELOP if we needed it to. So then if we want to look at having a 9-hour day, the enrichment in the afternoon would be with a community partner like Boys and Girls Club. We are having initial talks on that. I didn't want to get too far ahead until I came to you and talked about that, but it makes sense so that in my previous life when we had a half-day summer school program, many parents said, I can't leave work to go pick my kid up to go bring him to daycare. And so I think that it would be a great thing, and I think it would give kids an opportunity to enjoy themselves and be together. So next slide. So let's go back to that if we may. So just a couple of variables that are really challenging is, are we going to have enough staff? I think that when people know the facts that we will be able to. We were able to secure 8 classrooms at Ingrid B. Lacey. Barely. Like, there is not enough room between Spindrift and ThinkBridge and us, so we can do 8 classrooms. It's going to be tight, and you'll see some of those expenses reflected in the next slide. So this is back of the envelope planning, not exactly exact. So if we think about the summer school costs, is having an administrator for the 6 weeks of summer school. We would also ask that administrator to be oversee extended school year and also be connected to the CTE program that I'm going to describe in just a minute. So there'd be one administrator. I think that we should have a lead teacher for math and a lead teacher for language arts. So if we have 4 teachers for math and 4 teachers for language arts, it would be nice to have one that we paid either additional days or additional hours to lead some work. Someone to make sure that there are enough books and other kinds of things. I think that would be the rate for summer school is $50 an hour for everyone who teaches it. So what we would do is by asking that lead teacher to do additional hours, that they would be compensated a little bit more. So In terms of the 8 teachers, the daily rate is $175 per day. And then in most situations, any kind of total cost, you multiply by about 25% just to kind of give yourself a ballpark of that. We'd have 1 school secretary, 2 child nutrition staff members. Again, that's, are we able to secure them? Is there interest in people working? And so because we would serve breakfast and lunch, the people have to start getting there at about 7:45 and probably stay till about 1 o'clock. I said I didn't put in a number of paraeducators, but one of the things that we know that we would love to have is playworks for playground time before school, maybe during lunch. But we don't quite know what the student need will be, and so we want to consider having some support for paraeducators so that if there was a need there, we could have it. So I didn't put a number on that. So here's the challenge is that on August 1st, we need to recoup Ingrid B. Lacey from the multiple programs and be able to clean it as quickly as possible. So that could include overtime for any of our custodial staff that want to work it, or if we're not able to secure our own staff in terms of people that want overtime, looking at a contracting agency that would be able to quickly come in and clean the schools. Because every room is going to be used pretty much, or it will be not accessible because of construction, and to be able to clean it quickly is going to, they're not going to be able to deep clean it while all those things are happening. And then the last part that I have no cost for yet is, because I've talked to Boys and Girls Club, but we have not made any kind of commitment, would be, is there a cost to us for that partnership for the afternoon enrichment, or is that something that gets covered by Boys and Girls Club's funds, or another partner if it doesn't work out with Boys and Girls Club? What questions do you have about this before I go on to the next one?
I had one question about the teachers. So if the summer school is from 9 to 12, the teachers, are they getting paid for 3 hours, or is it 4 hours, or?
They're paid for 3.5 hours. So 1 hour is for preparation, and then the 3 hours are is going to come down to who's able to secure staff. So, but I think it's to our advantage to have summer school and an enrichment opportunity for kids. And that's kind of how the ELOP is designed around, you know, it's not all have to be academics, it's giving kids opportunities to learn. So I haven't thought that much about the partnership and who that could be. I just know that we will need someone else. Edie, did you have a question?
I did. I was just trying to connect the dots with the expanded learning program and then summer school. So my first question is, of the $376,000, is that for school year 21 and 22 into the summer? And then how much of that is going to be used for the summer school?
How much is going to be used for?
For the summer school. So based on this, but I assume all of this is going to be paid for by that,
yes.
But this is not the full amount.
Yes.
So how much do you expect?
So I ballpark this at about $150,000.
Okay.
It really depends on what that partnership is going to end up costing
Yeah.
us. So somewhere between 150 and 2, which means that the remaining amount of money would get carried over into the next school year.
Got it. And then the other question that I had, so the funding focuses on English language learners, economically disadvantaged and foster youth. Does the summer school program apply also to those subgroups?
So that's probably where our first set of invitations will come from.
Okay.
And the rules are that you have to offer it to 50%. So we would just take the kids that met those criteria between Rising 3rd and Rising 6th and invite those folks first and make sure that there's accessibility and people have reached out in terms of, we think that that enrollment would happen through our student services program, and perhaps Yolanda Pranza, sorry Yolanda if you're watching, I haven't talked to you yet, but that would be kind of a nice way of, as we're thinking about, mostly she was funded with COVID funds, is like, this is the next set of that, is how to get ready for summer school. So it would be something that would be handled through the student services department. So we would probably do first invitations in that way. Everybody's got different plans for the summer, and quite frankly, we're moving a little bit late on this because some families have already booked their vacations and other kinds of things. So we would invite those kids first. What's heartbreaking for me is I know that's not enough. Like, I know there are not enough spaces. 30 spaces per any grade level is not enough in terms of that, but it is what we can do this year. Next question.
That is it?
That's it? Okay, good. Any other questions on summer school before we move to the next one?
When do you think you would be hearing from Boys and Girls Club or talking to them again?
I have one meeting with them on Friday, and we just talked to them last week, so I just didn't want to commit to them, but I think on Friday we'll be able to see whether it's something that they can do. And if not, we'll just move as quickly as possible. I do have kind of a suggested timeline moving forward. So next slide, please. Okay, so expanded learning only goes to 6th grade. So you're going to see during the school year, and one of the reasons why we're want to have a little bit more money to carry over into that next year is thinking about how to best meet kids' needs during the school year as well. So, but expanded learning opportunity stops at 6th grade magically, and but Jefferson Union High School District has a career technical education grant that very nicely this week they allowed us to join them on the grant, and we're able to do that. So we'd look at rising 7th and 8th graders. It's a 4-week summer camp at Jefferson High School District, and we believe that there's going to be transportation. I don't want, probably maybe picking up from IBL, here I am talking about all sorts of specifics that I don't even know can work on that end, but they would provide the transportation. It has to be based on their school schedule because, so that's a June 14th start time. Which for our teachers is they will have just finished school, so there's not a break in there. But they ask us to hire the teachers, and then we get reimbursed by the CTE grant. So we're looking for 4 teachers. The curriculum is the San Mateo County Office of Ed Middle School Green Career Awareness and Exploration modules, and there are 4 of them. Intro to Career Exploration, Computer Science, Product and Innovation Design, and Engineering and Architecture. Again, we're probably looking for similar criteria for when we look at these, the students that we would first offer to. But again, 7th and 8th graders actually have camps and other kinds of things, so we may be a little late to that category, but I hope it's going to be a great program. This is only 9 to noon. There is not an after-school piece to that, but perhaps that would allow a child that already is on a sports team or something to be involved in that. And then rising 9th graders, for students that need a little bit more extra math help, they do have a math jumpstart that would be taught by, it's not a part of this, but it is something for students that are leaving our 8th grade going into Jefferson Union High School District. So really, we have something for 3rd all the way as students leave to us. There is not cost to this for us. The grant is covered, the curriculum is covered, the transportation is covered. This is fantastic. Again, it's a small number of students. It'll be 30 students per grade, but it's a great opportunity for 60 students. Any questions on that? Next slide, please. Here's another piece is that if the summer programs are not something that one would be involved with, is that the Boys and Girls Club has 50 full scholarships for 9 weeks of full day camp at the Yosemite Clubhouse. That's fantastic, right? So there are going to be some students that want to go to summer school that don't get in. This would be a great option for them. I think we're going to have no problem helping them fill those spots. Next slide. Okay, so here's the hard part about threading the needle. And, you know, I think when originally asked about summer school, I'm like, we can't do that. So here we are, looking at a very small bite of summer school. I recognize that it is not nearly as much as there is a need, but I think it's a good way of getting started. Really, the value of a strong summer program is doing it year after year after year and getting stronger and stronger. I think initially I felt like we would have a hard time getting staff, but I'm glad I asked, and I was pleasantly surprised that there was interest in that. And now that it's been defined, and quite frankly, in my opinion, I think it's a rocking summer school program. And I think for a teacher, if you knew you'd have some time to prepare in the morning, and you would teach the same lesson twice to a small group of kids, I think many teachers probably will be interested. But I also want to just respect that after several very, very hard years, we may not have the same kind of interest that we would typically have. So the challenge is, as in the contract, there are some very specific dates around when it has to be posted, and then when the timeline for the interviews, and it's too late for us. Like, we'd really like to know the challenge. I've said to staff all along, we'd love to run summer school, but don't talk to parents about it yet because we don't know if we can run it. And so I think as soon as we can work with LSEA in the conversation we had with them last week, it seems as though the trade-off is it used to be that many teachers wanted to teach summer school and there were only very few positions. And we think the tables are turned slightly. Is not that there's 12 positions, 8 for the 3 through 6 and 4 for the CTE program. So there are 12 spots. We're not completely convinced we're going to be able to find 12 people. I think what will likely happen is we'll have 4, maybe 6 people that say I can do the whole thing, all 6 weeks. And then what may happen is people say I can do these 3 weeks, and somebody says I can do these 3 weeks. So I think as long as we have enough coverage and it's solid enough for kids, we don't want to churn through people for kids. We want enough stability, but I think it may patch together quite nicely and meet people's needs. So that's kind of the first piece, is talking to LSEA, getting some formal agreements around when those timelines can we please move them up? Because ideally I'd love to send teachers to the May 17th and 18th training, and we'd want to send teachers that we're going to be teaching. So, so as soon as we felt comfortable posting those positions so that we really could get final availability and interest of staff, and then we could offer to families. But we want to make sure that we have enough staff. It would be awful if we said, oh, we're having summer school, and then get kids signed up and say, oh, sorry, we don't have the staff. That would be awful. So, finalizing plans for the enrichment program in the afternoon. Then we'd invite students to attend. That'll be handled by Student Services. Interview and hire staff, provide the training, and then purchase any of the materials that we need. Then we'd go.
So you have a month and a half.
I know. It's threading the needle is exactly what we're doing, right? Next slide. Yep. Questions?
Well, I just wanted to comment that thank you very much for pulling this together. I think it's very important to have some summer enrichment programs, especially for the student groups that we're talking about. So I know it's very last minute and, you know, a lot of things have to come together very quickly, but I think the students will benefit greatly.
And talk about last minute, like we just heard from Jefferson Union, like we've had several meetings over the last couple days in terms of different possibilities, but we just heard from Jefferson and it just keeps getting better, I think, in terms of that. Anything else, Elizabeth?
I was just wondering, is Think Bridge going to be happening this summer also?
Think Bridge is also going to be at Ingrid B. Lacey, and Spindrift is at Ingrid B. Lacey as well.
And I just want to reiterate, I really appreciate you putting this together, and actually Vern also kind of pushing it, but I think it's great. It's a great opportunity for our kids and try to boost everybody up, so thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to say thank you too. My hopes are high. I know they shouldn't be, but they are. So thank you very much. And to the, you know, the teachers who are willing to take some summertime off and help those kids that really need it.
Yep. I think so.
The other thing, which one was that? The program through Jefferson Union High School, will that happen regardless, since it's just 7th and 8th graders, or is that part of the plan?
So it depends on, can we get 4 teachers to teach it? I mean, I suppose if we only have 2 teachers, maybe we'd only pick 1 grade level. But I think between 7th and 8th grade, I think we could get 4 teachers. And for them, it's done at noon. So, you know, for teachers who work well beyond their school hours, to work until noon is, you know, almost like a vacation for them. So that's one thing. The other part that I want to point out is that both ESY and the summer school program is significantly supported by classified staff. If you think about the different positions that need to make that happen, custodians need to get the room set up and cleaned, child nutrition, making sure that it would be great to have playworks so that kids can have some extra fun. So it's like, it's both a certificated and a classified effort in terms of that. And so I think we'll have some fun. All right.
Thank you. All right, 10B, school climate update information from John Bartfield.
Thank you. Good evening, Board of Trustees. I'm very happy tonight to present to you a school climate update.
Yeah. Sorry.
Come on.
There we go. This first slide is just I thought a nice kind of definition or description of what school climate is to kind of ground us here. It's from the National Center of Safe and Supportive Learning Environments, and I think it really speaks to what we are working towards here in Pacifica School District. It's not that long, so I'm just going to read it. A positive school climate is the product of the school's attention to fostering safety, promoting a supportive academic, disciplinary, and physical environment, and encouraging and maintaining respectful, trusting, and caring relationships through the school community. So, you can just hit this because the graphics will fill in. My next couple of slides refer to our tiered systems of support, so Tier 1 and Tier 2. So I just wanted to put the graphic, the triangle back up here to remind us of this, that you know, our Tier 1 are our universal supports for available to all students. When we're referring to Tier 2, it's more targeted, selected group of students, and then Tier 3 are our most intensive supports. Go ahead, Will. So this school year, we've really been focusing. I updated the board in November on a lot of this, on our universal Tier 1 and targeted Tier 2 interventions to promote students' social emotional development, social emotional learning, empathy, and our communities. And some of the examples that we have, we've talked about our social emotional learning curriculum, Caring School Community, which is in place at all of our schools. We have our school counselors at all schools. The restorative practices that we have, and remember there's the proactive piece with those, really is the majority of that, and that's really the kind of the long game, so to speak, of building the positive kind of school climate and culture through restorative practices. We're going to look at some of those. And then reactive, which is more like the 20%, which is our like restorative circles and the way that we respond to behaviors that happen. Behavioral supports, and then we have alternatives to suspensions that all of our schools are implementing. I thought it might be nice to show you some of the awesome Tier 1 and Tier 2 examples that are in place at our school sites. You can see here, and I think that kind of a common theme that we have are the restorative practices. We've got monthly themes in place at practically all of our schools, and with that, we've got like lessons that happen with those monthly themes. We've got kind of visuals around school. We've got lots of traction with that. Our school counselors really are vehicles to that. They're pushing into classrooms. They're doing lessons kind of about those themes. So that's been a common piece that we've seen at our sites. Social skills groups, and then of course caring school community. I wanted to just mention LMEC is not on here. However, definitely happening there too with our classes. We've got through the play that happens with our preschool students, kind of themes for the play, and for students who might need more supports, we've got behaviorists kind of facilitating the play for them. So in our own way there, we are implementing at these strategies at LMEC as well. This is some data that I wanted to show the board about how, just to kind of illustrate how we've been meeting needs. And these are more intensive pieces here that we're talking about. First of all, 1,839 student counseling sessions. That's awesome, and that's our school counselors. We log everything into our system. Every session that we have, we keep track of it. So that is where we are there. 31 suicide risk assessments, 5 level 1 threat assessments. So level 1 threat assessments are possible perceived threats of harm, students to students or students to staff. And we have a process for both of the suicide risk and level 1, where we have our school counselors and our school psychologists trained on those processes, and we kind of fly into action immediately when that needs to happen in the moment. The level 1 threat assessment is done in conjunction with Pacifica Police Department, so we have an officer that comes to those as well to help us with that. We have 12 students receiving IEP-based mental health services. Right now we have 7 assessments pending there, so that number is very, very likely to rise. And then Care Solace is our service that links families to mental health supports and services. And you can see that 16 family-initiated cases, 21 staff-initiated, and that's resulted in 20 appointments into care there. So I thought that was pretty good. So when we're doing these efforts, we're putting these efforts in place to work on our school climate, we need to measure it. We need to take measuring sticks to see where we are with it. And it's really important because people perceive this very, very differently. Students and families don't have the same perceptions, first of all, of kind of what is school climate, and then are they feeling positive, and what parts of it are making them feel positive or not. So we need to try to obtain data through certain points and to measure this, and a very efficient way to do this is through surveys. So I'm just going to touch just really kind of briefly, not a deep dive, but just to talk about Panorama a little bit, because Panorama is a survey tool that we have that really gives us some data in these areas. And you can see the areas that it measures, and It's related directly to LCAP Goal 3. We administered our first panorama, this is for grades 3 through 8 in December. Our second window is open right now. We just opened it, and so if you flip the slide there, we'll take a look at kind of some overall school climate results, just so you can get an idea from the December survey. And the takeaway here on this is that you can see this is about favorable positive school climate. Kind of speaks for itself here. You can see, I mean, the one area that is here on this slide and kind of on subsequent slides is that a little bit of a less favorable number for students in the middle school age. Might not be atypical, but it's still something that we're comparing it to other similar age students. So here you can see those numbers. Grade 3 through 5, 64%. 6 through, well, it says 6 through 12, but for us it's 6 through 8, 52%. So lower on the percentile there. This is one of the questions on the survey that leads to those answers, and just so you have an idea, and you can see how that's laid out. For students, how positive or negative is the energy? And I mean, you can see that it's a little misleading because that one bar in the middle, neither negative nor positive, it's kind of neutral, but it's still red. So, but the ones above that are students who felt some negativity, or they answered that way, and again, I think is slightly higher for grades 6 through 8 in the negative realm. However, you can see our positive numbers too. So, I think you can flip the slide. The takeaway on these, again, belonging, school belonging, and our teacher and staff were included there, but right now I'm focusing on students. Again, a little bit lower for middle school. So I think we'd want to get more information on that. We'd probably want to get with students and find more about what may be leading to some of these perceptions, and what can we do to help them. What can we do with our with our programs for those students? And then safety. That there's a difference here. The top safety is actually safety related to COVID protocols, and the bottom was overall school safety. So that was the difference here. You can see our family members, teachers, students. We had pretty nice numbers here for how overall feeling safe at school.
Just ask you one question there.
Absolutely.
You have 2 metrics for teachers and staff in that top section. Is there a difference between teacher and staff at the 69% and the 43%?
So the staff survey may have been, the teacher survey may have been just teachers.
So the staff survey is non-teaching staff.
Non-teaching staff.
So it's the paraprofessionals, it's the staff
Oh, okay,
across
I'm
the
seeing
district,
it.
and then the lower one is the teacher survey.
Okay, I actually didn't see. It's my
It's a little
bad vision, but I just didn't see.
It
that
is hard to
up there.
see, and they do call it staff, so it's
Okay.
it's hard.
All right, so it's more clear now. Thank you.
This was actually a number that we used in something around communication. When we were talking about communication, I used these exact same numbers because of the difference between the staff numbers and the teacher numbers. And that was specifically around COVID safety, I think is.
Yeah. Yeah, the top half have to, each of the top half are like 1 or 2 questions, and they're both questions are connected to COVID safety protocols, and then the bottom half, the school safety one, is more general, like feeling bullied, if the student, there's a question on bullying, the physical and mental safety of the students.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, go ahead. So as I did in November, I want to give you the updated suspension data here, and you can see as of right now, we've had 29 students suspended 34 suspensions, so a couple multiples there, and then 49 incidents. And again, it's a little bit confusing, but the number of incidents is larger because for a suspension, you might have had a couple of different incidents, so a couple of different like areas that were violated that led to that suspension. 15 in-school suspensions, 19 out-of-school suspensions, and that totaled 35 and a half days of suspensions. So those are our updated numbers. I don't know what happened. You can scroll down, I think.
I'm in full screen, so
Full screen?
Let me go.
That is weird.
Let me go. Let me go off and see if it helps if I'm off.
There we go, I think it's.
Yeah, there we
Oh,
go.
yeah.
All right,
Wow,
I don't know what happened there.
that's weird.
Thank you. We can just go off of it like this for right now. 5-year, the 5-year comparison that we have. So remember, the 1920 was a little bit of COVID at the end there, so we were out of school. So we can look at that here. I like to look at 1819 because that's the last full year of school that we had, and we had that. We were kind of in that downward trajectory that we want. I mean, the numbers are higher than we want. We want to reduce our suspension numbers. But I think that being about 3/4 of the way through the school year, we're looking okay to continue the downward trajectory. I mean, we're always looking to implement those alternatives to suspensions, but that is our 5-year comparison for right now.
Last year looked great.
You can make it full screen on this one. And just as I conclude, I want to just remind the board, and we talked about this in November's update of all sites really are implementing alternatives to suspensions. And these are examples of all of those things happening. And again, the key of alternative to suspension is for students to understand the harm that their behavior has caused, and then give students the opportunity to repair that harm. If it's with other students, it's through those restorative pieces, conflict resolution, those types of things. If it's something that we can do a kind of a meaningful sort of community service, that's what we would like to implement rather than a suspension. Behavior contracts, counseling, detention, and talking with families and students in that restorative way. So that is it for my slides, and happy to answer any questions.
Questions? If you go back to the suspension 5-year trend line, what are the date ranges for those years? And the only reason I ask is we haven't finished this school year.
Yeah.
So and I don't know when peaks of suspension, when that would happen in general.
So those were full year numbers. Those were full years, so we're 3/4 of the way through the year.
Right.
So, yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so kind of, because
Okay.
I don't know, so at this time in 2019, 2020, what did those bars look like? I guess is the question.
Oh, okay.
Because it's
To
not a
compare
straight
that.
line, like I can't just add.
To compare that way, we're sort of
clear,
like
25%.
anticipating, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious what the actual trend line is.
Right.
if this is-
Right. So, those would be the entire school year, so I don't know if there's a way to, I guess we could maybe go into when those updates were made, those board updates were made, and we could probably take a look. These were full year updates.
Right.
So, we could work on that.
It's just a question, it's not terribly necessary.
Well, I
I'm
think
just curious.
you're leaning toward, we all know that the third trimester, especially in the 6th through 8th grade period, is when activity increases.
The question is, are we on par to end up in that number from 2019, 2020, or are we actually trending down and we won't know until the end of the year?
I don't think we'll know really until the end of the year. And again, I look at, I mean, it'd be nice to be in 1920, but 1920, we also were out for the last 3 months of school. So those numbers really would have been down because of that. So, you know, to go back to the last full year would have been 18, 19.
I can say this, in looking at this data from the previous years, on a typical year, and I know we're not in a typical year, usually, if you even go back before 16, 17, if you even go to 16, 17, 17, 18, 18, 19, the time right before the winter break, there's suspensions, and the time when we have like the 7 weeks of 5 days, the latter end of there, not right at the end, but like mid-May is where we have a spike in suspension. So those 2 times are the times where, if you look at the dates of the incidences, it's usually around those 2 dates. Not all, but there's a larger amounts in those 2 dates.
Which is very common.
On a typical year, so of course.
I mean, the trend line is gonna end up, if we just cut that all into thirds and add one of those thirds on the top, we'd end up with 39 in the blue and then about 45 in the orange. So it's kind of half dozen, you know. It's so you're gonna have a little bit of trend up in the blue, but it's also kind of a really weird year. People are incredibly stressed and kids are really stressed, and I'm sure that even as much as I'd like everyone to react in the right way, that sometimes that stress is compounding with maybe the end result in the situation.
A little bit of, I mean, not to have rose-colored glasses, but I mean, to see the forest through the trees a little bit is, you know, the resources that we put into this year and these efforts that we're doing, I mean, there's a long-term work there. Those strategies are longer term. So like these cultures the culture that we're creating, the positive climates, like over time, we hope, and it really is making a difference. I mean, having our school counselors and you know, everything that you saw there. So, you know, hopefully that long game, those long strategies, you know, will pay off. And yeah, I mean, I think that there is something definitely to be said for first year back.
Well, I don't think you shouldn't sell yourself short either. I think because those things may have prevented that 34 from being 54.
Good point.
So I think if that's hard to measure, but I think you see rises in the news in other school districts with discipline all over the place. And so I think the fact that we're trending even at par of previous years, given that, I think is still moving in the right direction.
Well, and I just want to give a shout out to all the counselors. I mean, that is a tremendous amount of counseling, and I really appreciate that work because it's a really important time for these kids to get that help. So
I'm going to just jump in on that and just also say that the number of suicide assessments, that's really daunting in terms of how important that work is. So
I just want to, for the next time, because I didn't see it in here, the data on the alternative to suspension, I'd like to see those numbers.
Yeah.
How many restorative circles we had, how much conflict resolution we did instead of suspension. I just want to get a comparison of how many times we're using these techniques against the suspensions. Good.
I have one more question if I can ask about the panorama survey. So the first question I have is, do principals and teachers receive their cut of the data? So if their students or that in particular?
Really want to talk about how we interpret that?
Yes, they do, the sites do receive that. We've been dealing with the issue of them being able to drill down to students level, so we actually rectified that this week for the for the fall survey, so that the results, so that teachers could see down to the student, specifically. That wasn't accessible before, and that will be the same for this survey spring that's opened up right now. But they've always had access to the school-wide, grade level, that type of information.
And are there expectations that the principals have around what to do with the information that they have? And I ask that because from a corporate work experience, we often do these culture surveys. And in companies that I worked for previously, when we just took the survey and then maybe somebody looked at it, there wasn't kind of follow-up, and it felt like kind of what's the point of this survey every year. But then, the company I currently work at, actually, our manager has to come up with a plan of here's what I noticed in the data, and therefore here's what we're going to do about it. And that feels a little bit more actionable. So I wonder if there's any expectations set around what this is.
So there needs to be more, to be quite blunt with you, but through the SIPSAs, through the plans, and through the metrics that they have within those plans, a lot of the data that you pull off is from the panorama survey, especially around their version of a Goal 3. So there is expectations and actions placed within there based off the data that they have off the surveys. But I would agree there should be more. We need to have the what now, conversations.
And I mean, I think to dovetail on that, like we would love kind of on our side with like our school counselors and with Christina Iverson and myself to just also maybe not on the expectation piece, but like come in and really look at that with them, and then look at what's happening, those examples of what's happening at their sites, and kind of like Trustee Doggett was saying, like how many times are we doing these restorative circles? Like what can we do to improve this 6-8 perception, and come in with those ideas. So we'd love to,
I also want to just say that we gave this survey in December. There was a little odd TikTok scare right at about the same time that went on. And truly from that time on to January, there was no settling down. So we did figure out the element around being able to give teachers access to their own students' data, which was a little bit of a glitch this week. So it would be great practice to give the survey, give access to that, and then have we know that there's a need for some professional development for some groups of people, but then the so what part of that, just like we need to do with other forms of our data and findings.
I just have a couple questions. Kai, thank you for bringing that up, because I think we want to know what's working and what's not working, and putting our resources to the right things. I was stunned at the 31 suicide evaluations, and I'm just wondering, are we giving some kind of information to parents? Because if this was just 31 that we caught, how many others are out there that might be thinking things? And so I'm just wondering if we have any kind of assemblies, or I know we're coming out of COVID, or some kind of help for the kids that might be struggling with, social anxiety, or what has them feeling that way. And I know it's, I'm not sure, we never had this information before, did we? Like the number?
I mean, we have it, we just have never
shared it broadly.
And there's varying, we take any sort of ideation absolutely seriously and get into this process, this risk assessment process. So wide ranges here. So we've got, any sort of, mention of possible self-harm or ideation, or there's a search on the Chromebook that is alarming. We are, being absolutely ultra conservative on that, and we're getting into the suicide risk assessment process. Thank goodness, practically all of them result in an extremely low risk. We immediately follow up with families. We let them know exactly what is happening. We try to link them to resources and we go from there. As far as like the preventative, you know, not something necessarily, I mean, those monthly themes, you know, resiliency and you know, self-awareness and those types of things are built in. So not maybe something like outright on self-harm, but it's woven in, self-esteem and you know, we always want students to know that there are trusted adults at school that they can go to. And that's a common theme, but not something that's just like targeted at, you know, suicide.
Right.
But also, I mean, also, you want to mention of the, you mentioned that you kind of mentioned passing about the Chromebooks, right? About the Chromebook searches, that it automatically triggers, which we haven't had. This has been an amazing service. I think it's called Securely. That does alert us when there's any sort of disturbing keyword immediately, and literally within minutes, a lot of times, the school counselor's with that student. It's like, you know, the search here, and let's talk about this, and then we go through the process as they've been trained. So yeah, I mean that's probably definitely raised. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It probably raised that number.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're catching the word catching.
That's great, Bill.
Sorry.
Anything else? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, 10C, authorization to enter into a contract for the PSD school facilities improvement at 6 sites project, goal operations, and this is Josie Peterson.
We have a few people that. We've got Cece Ming and Josie Peterson, but perhaps we'll take Rachel Merlot and Peter Tarkovsky off the.
Yeah, I was wondering how that happened. Okay, I'll take a picture.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Bradal. I hope the volume is okay. I can't see you too well, so I'm hoping that you can hear me all right. Both Cece and I are here tonight, and Cece has been extremely busy, as you know, and we have a lot of projects going on this summer and the coming years. So these next 3 requests for approval are for the facilities master plan. And the first one is a recommendation that the board authorize staff to enter into a contract with the lowest bidder for the Pacifica School District facilities improvements at 6 sites. And so we did have a bid opening. A public bid opening was held on March 17th. And the bid results were S&H Construction at 5.2, almost 5.3 million. Cal Pacific Construction at 5.9 million. W.E. Lyons at 7.3 million. Now, after reviewing the bids, Cece did a very thorough job of her review. S&H Construction, Inc. was the lowest bidder. However, it was determined that their bid was non-responsive. The bid did not materially conform to the specifications called for in the request for bids for failure to list a pre-qualified plumbing subcontractor. The bid breakdown listed under each school is extremely off when you compare the valuations by site. So after consulting with legal counsel and going over this information with them, we are now recommending that the board award the contract to the next lowest bidder, Cal Pacific Construction, Inc. And this is an action item that we are requesting the board to approve tonight. And I see a message in the chat. Yeah, that was a mistake, Rachel. Thank you. So we're here to answer any questions that the board might have.
All right. And to authorize the staff to enter into a contract with the lowest responsible bidder for the PSD school facilities improvement at 6 sites project.
I'll make a motion to approve.
And do I have a second?
Second.
Barbara, would you like to take the vote?
All in favor, show of hands. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
All right. 10D, authorization is to enter into a contract to provide DSA projects inspection services, and this is also Ms. Peterson.
Thank you again, Trustee Doggett. Now this item is for the project inspector selection results. And again, CC conducted another request for proposals, and the district did receive 3 proposals on March 4th. And upon review, and the lowest proposal was Pinelli Construction Inspection, Inc. in San Carlos. These firms are all equally qualified. However, Pinelli Construction did show the most interest for the job and is in the closest proximity to the Pacifica School District and does have the most competitive bid. So tonight we are asking for the board to approve Pinelli Construction Inspection, Inc. As our inspection services.
Can I just question?
Yep.
And CC might maybe.
Yes.
What is doing?
So, the inspection is required by the Division of State Architect. So what they do is they check the contractor's work and they compare that to the contract documents. The contract documents are the drawings and specifications produced by the architect. So they would check the contractor's work, making sure it conforms to the fire life safety, the access, and structural requirements specified in the architect's drawing and specifications. Basically, it's just making sure the quality of their work, meets all the drawing requirements.
The entire time that there's construction going on, or are they doing just?
No, so they will be during the summer. When I issue the RIP, they are required to be on site every day throughout all sites because we have a lot of work going on this summer. So they're required. They're also required to write daily inspections report with pictures documenting the construction process, because what we have found in the past is anytime when there's construction defects, then you would need evidence and proof in these lawsuits, but hopefully we don't go there. But the inspectors daily reports serves as a significant documentation of the construction process progress and contractors work in progress.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Do I have a motion to authorize the staff to enter into contract with Pinelli Construction Inspection to provide DSA projects inspection services?
A motion to approve?
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Barbara, can you take the vote, please?
Yes, all in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, 10E, authorization to enter into a contract for the PSD lock set replacement at 4 sites. And this is again, Ms. Peterson.
Thank you again, Trustee Doggett. Tonight, we're asking the Board of Trustees to approve the contract to Opening Technologies. Again, CC did a public bid opening on March 16th, and the bid results were Opening Technologies for $386,000 and some change, and City Door and Hardware for just over $405,000. We have some positive work already conducted with Opening Technologies, and given that they are the lowest bidder, that is our recommendation tonight.
Any questions? Do I have a motion to authorize staff to enter into contract with the lowest responsible bidder for the PSD lock set replacement at 4 sites project?
A motion to approve.
And do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Barbara, will you take the vote, please?
Yes, all in favor, please raise your hands. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you, Josie. All right.
Thank you, CC.
Thank you, Josie. Thank you, board.
All right, 10F, working group on priorities and funding update, and this is Dr. Olson.
Perfect. We just had our 3rd of 6 work groups this past week, and we are working on Josie gave a presentation on the fiscal reality of our, and if you think about some of the parents and staff that are on the working groups, these are people that know our district well, and they were surprised by our very low revenue. And I think the one thing to keep in mind is, so we're at the very bottom of San Mateo County, less than $1,000 less than Burlingame, that's right above us. $1,000 times 3,000 students is $3 million. And so kind of the takeaway from that is $3 million is 30 certificated staff members, right? And we think about on many of the things that we struggle with, being short-staffed, that is probably the biggest contributor to that. And so we're working with Mr. Levinson around what are the impacts of that? What are the impacts on low teacher salary? Writing the messages, being able to convince others of being able to tell our story. And we're really recognizing how difficult it is to take complex school finance and boil it down to a simple way that everyone can explain it and explain it to their neighbors. So that's where we are. We have 3 more sessions left. 2 are scheduled in April, and then we're working to schedule 1 more in May, and hopefully have groundwork in terms of our next steps in terms of where to go from that. Any questions? Thank you. That was just for information.
Okay, we are now into board bylaws, board policies, and administrative regulations. And 11A, updating policy numbers. This is also you, Dr. Olson.
Okay, so this one does not require any kind of board action. It is just for your information, is making sure that the board policy numbers align. Were there any questions about that? So after we turn the page on this board meeting, those will just go right into action.
Okay. 11B is policy deletions.
There were 4 policies that are no longer current, so they just get deleted, but that does require board action, which means unless there are any questions, we would put them in the consent calendar for next board meeting.
And 11C is updating policy titles.
Very similar. It's just changing the names to be consistent, and that does require board action. So because it would be a second meeting, we would do it in consent unless you had any questions or issues. Any questions? Okay, thank you. Thank you to Barbara for getting that organized. That was not easy to do.
All right, so we're at future agenda items.
Okay, so we are getting ready for the very, very busy spring. So our next board meeting is April 27th, and we will be, I thought we were going to do I think we're going to do the PEF and PTO presentations in May. And we should have some manual maintenance. I know that Dr. Torres has some policies that she'd like to bring to you in April. If we go to the busyness in May, is that we've got board work study on the LCAP and the budget on May 11th. And then we have a regular board meeting in May, and that's when I think we're going to do PTO and PEF. And then the school services, we're looking to schedule that board work study on Wednesday, May 25th. And I'm pretty certain that that was one of the days that was one of the days that they offered to us. So, and I confirmed with you all that we would be able to have that. And then June 1st is a regular board meeting, which is our LCAP public hearing. And then June 15th is, that's the week after school gets out, that second week. And that's when we would do the approval of our LCAP and our budget on that day. Are there any, that's a very busy April, May, June. So
Do we have a list yet of the school graduations and promotion
We
ceremonies?
will get a list of the school graduations. We did just finish the school open houses, and Barbara will get that to you. We'll put the school open houses in the weekly update.
Perfect.
So that actually was an interesting thing, because if you think about where we were in January and then coming back, and but I believe that we're having in-person open houses, and when I checked in with the principals this week, they said that they were squared away, ready to go. So we'll get you those dates, and we'll also get you the promotion ceremonies. Thank you for asking for that. It's good that we typically do put those on the future agenda items.
Are we done? Anything else? All right, we'll adjourn at 8:36 p.m.